Hello and welcome back to my humble show. I am your host for today and every other day, the Articulate Thinker. Hopefully, here to bring you art articles and articulations straight from Articulation Stations. Be sure to like, subscribe, and enjoy the ride. Don't forget to turn on those bell notifications while you're at it. If you like it, put a ring on it. It has been a couple of weeks since I have recorded a show. And here's how this is going to go. I am going to go through some election news. I'm going to share my views with you. You feel free to disagree with me. Let me know in the comments below what you think, what you know, as per usual. And as per usual, I'm on my lunch break right now. Don't have a lot of time. And because of that, and because of the fact that I don't want to spend quite as much time rambling as I have in the past, I want to keep this train on track. And I have said that many times. But I'll continue to say it until it actually happens. So, let's make it happen. Let's make it happen, Captain. Election news. The latest, as of yesterday, is that Tim Scott has suspended his 2024 GOP primary bid, as you can see here in this article from The Hill. No need to read that again. There's the headline for you. Reading through this, quick, fast, and in a hurry. A Republican presidential contender, Senator Tim Scott, has dropped out of the 2024 GOP primary, the latest high-profile exit from the race, following the exit by Mike Pence. Oh, wait a second. I forgot to turn on some of my lights. Let me fix that problem. There's one. There's two. Some more blue in the background for you. Another subtle difference. Probably couldn't even see that. I guess I could have made my actual camera larger than life. Now you see me. Now you don't. Well, you still do, but you know what I mean. Anyways, first it was Mike Pence. He was dispensed. Mike Dispense, in other words. And now, Tim Scott. Farewell to you, my friend, who I've never met. Scott made the announcement on Fox News Saturday or Sunday night in America with Trey Gowdy. Sunday Night in America with Trey Gowdy. There we go. That is the name of the show on Fox News. The host himself, a former Republican South Carolina congressman who wrote a book with Scott. So the two of them are close. And it was a surprise to Trey Gowdy. At least he looked shocked to me. And he asked a few questions to the suspended presidential candidate. And let's see if this article dives into any details. I love America more than I did on May 22nd. But when I go back to Iowa, it will not be as a presidential candidate. I am suspending my campaign, Scott told Gowdy. I think the voters who are the most remarkable people on the planet have been really clear that they're telling me not now, Tim. So even if it's not ever, it's not now. According to Tim, and I believe him on that because, let's face it, he just did not have a shot in the dark on this one, despite how likable of a person he is. Not really presidential material, if you ask me, and you can feel free to disagree with me on that. When I think of him, I think, what's for potluck? That's the question I want to ask. He does not inspire me to want to go and vote for him. That has been my line, and I'll maintain that, at least for now. But he had a good run while it lasted. Well, he had an alright, a goodish run while it lasted. Scott's campaign sent a fundraising email just minutes before he made his announcement, giving donors what it called one last chance to donate this weekend and help Tim reach his campaign goal. Okay, that's interesting. Donate now. Just kidding. Dropping out. Scott launched his candidacy in May 2022 and was the second South Carolinian after former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley to run for the White House on the Republican side. So that's a little bit of a setback. But someone else from your vicinity is running, and that someone happens to have a little bit more support than you do. even if she's just a flavor of the moment. I heard someone use that expression. She's a flavor of the moment, and her support will fade into the abyss, and then it will be between Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis. And you know who I favor in that, but that's not a part of this discussion. So here we go. He, as in Tim Scott, campaigned on a largely positive and optimistic message that drew on his personal story as someone raised by a single mother who came to be the only sitting black Republican senator. Optimistic indeed, and he sounded like more of a preacher than a politician, which is a good thing, honestly. Right? As if we need more people who sound like politicians. Well, he sounds like a preacher who's trying to politic. The announcement came just days after the third GOP primary debate. Over the summer, Scott showed some signs of momentum in early state polling briefly as the Florida governor struggled to narrow the gap between himself and former President Trump, whom he didn't spend too much time insulting, though more time than, say, Vivek Ramaswamy spent insulting Donald Trump. He will not insult him, at all. And maybe I shouldn't even say insult. Just constructive criticism is nice sometimes, because there's plenty to criticize about the former president of the United States, Donald Trump, which is why Vivek Ramaswamy loses me, because he goes up on stage and begins to just attack everyone except Donald Trump, to call everyone losers in the Republican Party except Donald Trump, the numero uno loser of the Republican Party. So yeah, Vivek the Snake, you heard it here first. Well, not first, but you heard it here. But back to Tim Scott. The South Carolina Republican was unable to capitalize on that momentum during the Republican and presidential debates, particularly during the first debate when he was largely in the background as candidates Vivek Ramaswamy, Mike Pence, and Nikki Haley, of course, clashed. Like the titans they are not. In the second debate, he was much more demanding of the spotlight. And I thought, good for him. Then in the third debate, despite getting the most talk time of all of the candidates, he's back in the background again. For good. Or at least for now, since he has suspended his campaign. And though Scott enjoyed a campaign war chest of $22 million when he entered the race, money he accumulated while fundraising as a senator, his campaign also grappled with a high cash burn rate. That's never good. But he's not the only one. The Scott campaign announced in October that the senator was going all in on Iowa and moving its headquarters to West Des Moines, Iowa, as the campaign increasingly saw the Hawkeye state as the make-or-break state. "We have made the decision that it's Iowa or bust for us, and I'm looking forward to being there," Scott told conservative commentator Hugh Hewitt late in October. So much for that. And this doesn't actually have many of the relevant quotes from his announcement on Trey Gowdy's show on Fox News. But on my Articulate Thinker News Clips channel, I have an edit up of the relevant portions of that interview. Much to the shock of Trey Gowdy. So check out my other channel, my Articulate Thinker News Clips channel, if you want to see those clips. Here you go. Here's a question for you. Tim Scott suspended his presidential campaign, declined to endorse another candidate for the moment, and suggested, though not definitively, that he isn't interested in being selected as the vice president. Which part of that surprises you the most? That's a question for you. Question for X, but no one answered, so that's why I'm asking you. Which part of that surprises you most? And do you actually believe him when he says that he's not interested in being the vice president? Vivek Ramaswamy, speaking of Vivek the Snake, has also said as much. I guess I could ask you whether you believe either one of them. If Donald Trump or Ron DeSantis or whoever were to ask them to be the vice president, you think they would say, "I'm interested"? I'm not really sure. I'm not saying that Tim Scott is a snake. Actually, I applaud him for dropping out now He seemed to do so in a humble way, and I appreciate him for that. I don't mean to throw too much dirt on the man. I like him. I don't think there's too much dirt to throw on him. I'm just simply saying that he wasn't really cut out for it. Maybe he's cut out for a vice presidential position if he hasn't pissed off Donald Trump too much, for example, which is why I was considering how much he has insulted, criticized, thrown dirt on or at the former president of the United States. Because once you do that, it's kind of a no-go. Not really going to be his vice president after all. But that's assuming that Donald Trump is going to be the president, and I'm not really hoping for that, to be honest. But yeah, that's my question, my series of questions. So good for Tim Scott not endorsing another candidate at the moment, at least at the moment. Needs to see how things play out. Wait a little bit longer. All right, here's another question for you in regards to Joe Manchin, who also made an announcement this past week. And I meant to speak on it last week, but things just have not gone my way on this channel. Now that Joe Manchin has announced that he won't be running, newsflash, for re-election in the Senate, speaking of senators, do you think he'd be a threat to Joe Biden if he ran for president as a Democrat candidate? I'd also be interested to know what you have to say about that. What do you have to say for yourself? Let me know in the comments below. Do you think he would be a threat to Joe Biden? One Joe versus the other, one more average than the other. I would definitely prefer Joe Manchin over Joe Biden, I think. But let me read into a couple of articles, maybe a few articles, see if I can stretch this show out as much as possible. At least in terms of content, not in terms of time, because I have to go soon. Joe Manchin announces he will not seek re-election to the Senate in 2024, which leads to the question of whether or not he's going to be running for president as a Democrat or as an independent, for that matter. I mean, he would be competing with RFK Jr. in that case, but I don't think RFK Jr. has much of a place in the race, and that's nothing against him. It's just that Democrats hate RFK Jr. even more than Republicans do. And I learned that back when Republicans called him to testify on censorship in Congress. And the Democrats hated his guts so much that they tried to push forward a motion before he could even speak to prevent him from speaking in a hearing on censorship. Oh, the irony. And I was like, no, he doesn't have a shot. Democrats hate him. Republicans, including myself, if you want to call me a Republican, don't particularly agree with RFK Jr. on all that much, especially when he mentioned throwing people in jail if they disagreed with the green energy policies a few years back. I think he's more reasonable now than he was then, but I'm not going to pretend that I agree with him on all that much just because he is anti-establishment in ways that I am anti-establishment. Someone else who is a little bit sick of what the two parties, or as some say, the uniparty, are at these days. I don't know if I phrased that right, but Joe Manchin, he's a little bit fed up. He's a little bit fed up with it all, isn't he? He has tossed around the idea of switching from the Democrat Party to at least independent party or a third party, if not directly to the Republican Party. Some call him a conservative Democrat. I don't know if that's really a thing, but you tell me. I'm just saying, he seems like someone who would be unafraid to step on the toes of those whom he is not supposed to politically oppose. Democrats, I'm talking about here. Maybe that's just because of the state he's from. He has a fairly conservative constituency, and he has been required to keep them happy for quite some time now. But hey, if he's out of the Senate and he doesn't have to keep those constituents happy, maybe he will turn over a new leaf. Maybe he will leave the Democrat Party for once and for all. But yeah, so many different Hypothetical scenarios here. I don't mean to get lost in the weeds. Joe Manchin announces he will not seek re-election to Senate in 2024. That's from Daily Wire. And there is an announcement video which he had posted on X. To the West Virginians who have put their trust in me and have fought side by side to make our state better, it is an honor. It has been an honor of my life to serve you. Thank you. My statement on my political future. It is a 4-minute long statement. It's kind of old news at this point, so I'm going to skip past that. But yes, he announced on Thursday of last week that he will not seek re-election to the Senate in 2024, but kept the door open to a potential run for the White House. Switch up my view a little bit here. Change the scenery. All right, so he said, I've made one of the toughest decisions of my life and decided that I will not be running for re-election to the United States Senate, Manchin has said in the video. I have both cats in my lap right now. This is ridiculous. Try to come home for an hour-long lunch break, and this is what I get. I can't complain. But I will. But what I will be doing is traveling the country and speaking out to see if there's an interest in creating a movement to mobilize the middle and bring Americans together, he added. He being the senator, soon-to-be former Senator Joe Manchin. So yeah, he's someone who can bridge the gap a bit. He can work across the aisle, and I'm all for that because we have so much division. But I'm not really for a false sense of unity either. So it's a balance. Striking the balance is what it's all about. I can skip through this a bit. This says, with Manchin bowing out, Republicans could be well on their way to picking up a seat in the Senate, which is nearly controlled by the Democrats. I have an article pulled up with more on that, but I don't know if I'll even have time for it. Manchin faced a strong challenger in Republican West Virginia Governor Jim Justice, who, in a hypothetical face-off, defeated the incumbent by 13 points, according to an Emerson College survey in early October. Justice still faces a GOP primary in which Representative Alex Mooney is also running. So maybe Manchin is afraid that he will not actually win this time, and therefore he isn't going to give it a shot. But I don't know. I'm trying to give him as many benefits of the doubt as possible here, because I do find him to be more tolerable than many of the Democrats, if not most of the Democrats. Over the past several months, Manchin has bemoaned the level of division across the United States that has left common sense people politically homeless. In August, he said he would think very seriously about a break with the Democrat Party. Manchin has hinted for a while that he was open to the idea of a third-party campaign for the White House in 2024. Third party, that is, not Democrat Party. And there has been speculation that Manchin and former Republican Utah Governor John Huntsman could team up after they appeared together for a No Labels town hall in July. No Labels would be interesting, but I still think, unit party or not, you don't really have much of a shot unless you're running as a Republican or Democrat. But, yeah. No Labels released a statement on Thursday praising Manchin as a great leader in the Senate and ally. The group also said it is still gathering input for a possible unity presidential ticket and plans to make a decision by early 2024. So we might have to wait a little while for any potential announcement. Manchin has served in public office in West Virginia, including as governor, or represented the state in Congress dating back to the early 1980s. To the West Virginians who have put their trust in me and fought side by side to make our state better, it has been an honor of my life to serve you. Thank you, he said in a post to Twitter, which is seen right here. But I'm not going to click on it. You can click around and find out for yourself if you'd like. Senator Joe Manchin on Twitter, or shall I say X. Now, some Democrats have an issue with him, or at least they have unadmittedly had an issue with him because he has stood in the way of, say, Biden legislation. Senator Joe Manchin says he won't vote for Biden's Build Back Better Act, potentially killing the social and climate bill. This is an article from CNBC back in December 19 of 2021. Hopefully I'm not reading and talking too fast, but really I'm trying to get through as much as possible. I'm trying to stay on point here before I have to go back to work. But yeah, so it's not a secret that he has been a bit of a setback for the Democrats, though they tend to try to pretend that he's not actually a setback, and I'll provide you an example of that here in a minute. But let me go through a few more headlines, old headlines. This one from July 17 of 2022. The other Joe, how Manchin destroys Biden's plans, angering Democrats. Ooh. Working across the aisle to the detriment of his own party sometimes. The agenda of his own party. That's what I like to hear. Here's another old headline from AP, Associated Press. This one from March 10 of 2023. So moving on into this year. In rift with Biden, Manchin vows to block oil gas nominee. So he's not the bloat vu. He's not the vote blue no matter who type. And I applaud him for that. And maybe I'll use this image here as my thumbnail. No, it's kind of random. I don't think I'll use it. I'll figure it out. I'm just talking to myself now. Don't worry about it. From November 9 of this year. Manchin, Cassidy lead effort to overturn Biden administration rule threatening American franchise model, small businesses. So even more recently, he is still a setback. He's standing in the way of his party's agenda, of Biden's legislation, whatever you want to call it. And yes, this was on the 9th, but it said here at the top, today, U.S. Senators Joe Manchin and Bill Cassidy, Democrat and Republican, ranking member of the Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee, introduced a Congressional Review Act resolution to overturn the National Labor Relations Board, NLRB, new joint employer rule, which forces liability on companies for another business's employees, even if they do not directly oversee them. The senators were joined by Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, who, let's just say, he's getting a little old, like Joe Biden, as well as Representatives John James, Republican, Virginia Fox, Republican, chairwoman of the House Education and the Workforce Committee, and House Speaker Mike Johnson, of course, a Republican. So another example of Joe Manchin working across the aisle there. So it would be interesting, for sure, if he were to run for president as Democrat or even as third party, though I don't think he would get very far if he were to run as third party. Then again, if he were to run as Democrat, well, Joe Biden is already doing that, or so he says. So I don't know. I don't know how that would go for the second Joe Manchin. About Joe, and I don't have time to really read into this, but I will read this much. U.S. Senator Joe Manchin was sworn into the United States Senate on November 15 of 2010 to fill the seat left vacant by the late Senator Robert C. Byrd. For Senator Manchin, serving as West Virginia Senator is truly an honor and privilege. You can find this on his www.manchin.senate.gov about page. More information about him. Just in case he does happen to run for president, it's good to know who is in it to win it. Not to say he's as pure as the driven snow. A lot of speculation about potential scandals have been tossed around over the course of time. Here's an article from Fox Business. Joe Manchin has helped steer millions in federal funds to groups linked to his wife. Ooh. The 2021 federal infrastructure bill Manchin helped push through Congress gave a staggering $1 billion to a commission headed by his wife. Did she personally benefit? Well, kind of, I guess. Does that mean he's corrupt for voting for something that he felt would benefit his wife? I mean, if it benefits his wife, safe to assume it benefits some other people as well. So if that's the reason why he's pushing through legislation, what's wrong with that? I do think if you're only supporting it if you feel like it benefits you or your significant other in this case, that's corrupt, even if not criminal. But I don't know. I'm just saying, I don't know whether these are smear pieces or whether there's actually substance to them. We get this in regards to Clarence Thomas all the time, for example. People saying, oh, he did this, that, and the other thing for personal benefits. Can you really prove it? No, it's just that good things happen to him, and it's as if nothing good is ever supposed to happen to him since he's a black conservative Republican who is on Supreme Court. Well, I guess he wouldn't be entirely considered a Republican. But yeah, he's definitely conservative. But you know, this is how opposition research works. And with that being said, I don't feel the need to read into all of this right now. I'm just providing an example of stuff that becomes relevant when someone makes an announcement that they are going to be running for president of the United States. I'm sure we'll hear all about that at some point, if that happens, and that's only if. He might do a little bit better than Tim Scott. I'll say that much. And here's an amusing clip of Kamala Harris talking to Charlemagne the God. And if you don't see the relevance, you're about to find out.
But all kidding aside, of course, President Harris is a proud Howard alum.
It's okay. It's okay. Who's the superhero that's going to speak against Joe Manchin? No. I want to know who's the real president of this country. Is it Joe Biden or Joe Manchin?
I'm sorry. I interrupted. I don't think the vice president can hear you. It's Simone. I'm so sorry, Charlamagne. We have to wrap.
She can hear me.
You can hear me? Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me, Madam Vice President?
So I'm sorry. We got to wrap.
Oh.
So I'm sorry to interrupt.
They're acting like they can't hear me.
I can hear you.
Oh, so who's the
I
real?
can hear you.
So who's the real president of this country? Is it Joe Manchin or Joe Biden, Madam Vice President?
Come on, Charlamagne.
Come
on. It's Joe Biden.
I can't tell sometimes.
No. It's Joe Biden, and don't start talking like a Republican about asking whether or not he's president.
Do you think Joe Manchin is a problem?
It's Joe Biden, and I'm vice president, and my name is Kamala Harris.
President Harris.
Do you think the criticism comes from you being a black woman, a woman of color?
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
You know, we need you to be the superhero that saves democracy.
You are truly invincible.
Okay. So a lot of good times there. A lot of good times. A lot of connections, too. Obviously, Charlemagne was the one who Joe Biden said, you ain't black, to. and you know, kind of surprising pushback from Charlemagne there. Him and Kamala Harris, they go back a ways as well. They had their infamous interview back before she became the vice president in which she was talking about smoking pot and listening to Snoop Dogg and Tupac when she was younger. Yeah, good times indeed. Good times in weed. But yeah, in this case, he was asking her, Charlemagne was asking Kamala Harris, who's the real president? Is it Joe Manchin or Joe Biden? Joe Biden or Joe Manchin? And she got offended. She took offense to it. Not before her staff member, Simone. My video is freezing up on me. Hopefully all of this is coming through. Sorry, I'm buffering really badly on my end. I don't know if you're picking it up, though. A staffer, Simone, tried to cut off the interview, pretending that Kamala Harris couldn't hear what Charlemagne, the lowercase g god, as he calls himself, well, or pretending that they couldn't hear him. Obviously, they could. And then Kamala Harris went on to say blah, 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 blah. And that's pretty much the end of that. But my point was, that's an example of Joe Manchin standing in the way of the Biden administration. And then whenever they were asked about it, whether in interviews or in press briefings, yada, 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 bing, bang, boom, they would deflect back to Republicans. Don't start talking like a Republican. It's the Republicans. Oh, but yeah, but there are a couple of Democrats, whether it's Manchin or Sinema, who are blocking this legislation, blocking this package, this bill. Oh yeah, but let's talk about the Republicans. It's the Republicans, the evil Republicans. Oh, the MAGA Republicans. So they're good at acting unified, even when there is division within their own ranks. Democrats are good at that. Republicans not so much. And I guess that has something to do with Donald Trump, because if anyone stands in his way, he's like, you're a rhino. If anyone stands in Joe Biden's way, the Democrats are like, let's talk about the Republicans, though. So, yeah. All that in a bag of chips. Kamala Harris could be sidelined by fellow Dems if Biden exits 2024 presidential race. I'm going to have to really wrap this up, because I really got to go. Really. But it's an interesting dynamic with her being essentially an affirmative action pick by Joe Biden, who is unfit to be the president of the United States if Joe Biden does happen to drop out or lose favoritism. But would it be her who would take his place as the current vice president, or would it be someone like Gavin Newsom? Here's a question for you. Another question. Do you think Kamala Harris has aspirations of being, heaven forbid? I put heaven forbid. I just noticed that. Oh well. The next president. Do you think Kamala Harris has aspirations of being the next president? And either way, do you think the Democrat dibs would go to someone like Gavin Newsom over her, despite the boxes which she checks? Thus her being an affirmative action pick. Could she even hypothetically serve under Newsom as vice president? In other words, he runs and takes Joe Biden's place, and then she takes her place once again as vice president, this time under Gavin Newsom. I think Gavin Newsom is a little bit more viable of candidate than she is for president. And I don't say that meaning that I like him anymore. I don't. I definitely don't. I just think that he's a little bit not more tolerable, but more politically savvy. She is far from that. She is a horrible politician. There, I could have just said that. I just noticed I had another typo in this tweet. Man, I tweeted this out. I posted this when I was half asleep last night. I said new son instead of Newsom. Gavin Newsom. Regardless, Newsom 2024. Could the California governor be a rival to Joe Biden? Amid concern over the president's poll ratings, Gavin Newsom appears to be running something of a shadow campaign. Ooh, shadow boxing with the big guy. Interesting stuff. Speaking of Gavin Newsom, not Newsom, here's a funny quote from him from today. Listen for yourself. As posted by Tom Elliott.
Folks say, oh, they're just cleaning up this place because all those fancy leaders are coming into town. That's true, because it's true. But it's also true For months and months and months prior to APEC, we've been having different conversations.
All right, so the streets of San Francisco and other cities in California have been a mess. Homeless, drugs, other buzzwords you want to use. Mess. Just a mess. But all of a sudden, the streets have been clean. The street sweeper is out. Fences are up. Barriers are up because they're making way for China's communist leader. Xi Jinping is going to be making a visit to San Francisco. And so Governor Gavin Newsom has defended the timing of San Francisco cleanup by admitting that's true. That's why we're cleaning it up. And he says that as though it's a win for him. It's an admitted loss. It's just you being a clown. But hey, those who celebrate your circus will celebrate you, the clown.
Folks say, oh, they're just cleaning up this place because all those fancy leaders are coming into town. That's true because it's true.
That's true because it's true? And he says that with a serious look on his face. Dude is a clown. So maybe he's not that much more politically savvy than Kamala Harris after all. Maybe I should have taken that back. Huh. What say you? So, here's an article on him. Newsom's globe-trotting shadow campaign faces ridicule, waiting in the wings. And I could speak more on the visit by China's leader, Xi Jinping, into the state of California, the not-so-great state of California. But ain't nobody got time for that. I don't know if I have time for this article either. This from the Washington Examiner. Governor Gavin Newsom has chased headlines from Sarasota to Beijing this year. But the California Democrats' international tour has raised questions about ulterior motives. And let's take into consideration the fact that he is going to be debating Ron DeSantis on Sean Hannity's show on Fox News in a matter of days. Ron DeSantis and Gavin Newsom will debate on Fox News in November. The ideologically opposed governors will face off in Georgia on November 30. Fox News' Sean Hannity will host. So that will be fascinating, right? Debate of the states. Debate of the governors. Governor of Florida versus governor of California. Florida versus California. Okay, we know which state wins there. Because people have been leaving California in droves and moving to Florida. From California to Florida. I'm in such a rush here. I feel like I'm saying the wrong thing. But I'm saying so many things. I need to wrap this up. I wanted my main focus to be on Tim Scott and Joe Manchin. How RFK Jr. could change the outcome of the 2024 election? That is a good question. I may speak to that at some point in the near future. I spoke to him a little bit already. Democrats dominate list of most vulnerable Senate seats. Do I have time to run through any of these names here? Not really. So maybe I'll save this for later as well. Joe Manchin's name is in here. Another relevant name is the name of Bob Menendez. Senator Bob Menendez unsurprisingly tops the list of senators who may be on their way out, who will be on their way out, and could potentially be replaced by Republicans, right? So that's what this article is about. This article also from the Washington Examiner, and I did reference this article about RFK Jr. It's from CNN Politics. I just like to shout out every news network, every news publication, which I happen to reference, even if it's CNN. CNN sucks, I will say that much. But I have to go back to work, so thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Keep in touch, keep in touch. New content is coming soon. Peace.